What's going on, guys? It's Steven from the BS Show, and at UFC 254, October 24th, Khabib Nurmagomedov will be taking on Justin Gaethje for that lightweight strap. And I know many people wanted to see Tony Ferguson versus Khabib Nurmagomedov, but Justin Gaethje stepped in and said, nope, sorry, I got other plans. And now with Khabib putting it out there that he only has 2 fights left, Justin Gaethje, and then he wants GSP to be his final fight, us, the fight fans, will probably never get to see Tony Ferguson versus Khabib Nurmagomedov, but hey, we got to put that into the UFC graveyard of fights that we just never got to see, and it is what it is. The MMA gods just didn't want it to happen. I mean, after 5 times of being scheduled and not happening, that fight is truly cursed. But it's okay. I'm happy with Justin Gaethje versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. I mean, Justin Gaethje's a guy that I've been a huge fan of for a long time. I used to watch him back in World Series of Fighting, and the guy was just super exciting to watch and undefeated at that time. And I was always curious on how he would do in the UFC. So when he finally got signed by the UFC, I was so excited. In that first fight with Michael Johnson, he lived up to the hype, and highlight reel after highlight reel and fight of the night after fight of the night, Justin Gaethje instantly became a huge star in the UFC. Yeah, he had a little rough patch there because he was over aggressive, but he figured it out and adapted to the UFC caliber fighter. And ever since those 2 losses to Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje's been on an absolute tear, knocking out James Vick, Edson Barboza, Donald Cerrone, and stopping Tony Ferguson's 12-fight win streak. I'm so glad to see Justin Gaethje go through adversity and come out on top. This shows the guy's mental fortitude and championship spirit. So he definitely deserves his title shot versus Khabib Nurmagomedov, and I'm happy to see him grow into the star that he truly is. But with all those praises being said, Justin Gaethje surely is going to have his hands full of Khabib Nurmagomedov, because Khabib's probably considered one of the best fighters and definitely one of the most dominant wrestlers in the sport. I mean, Justin Gaethje's a D1 wrestler himself, but there's something different and next level about that Dagestani chain wrestling. Just like the Gracies before them, Khabib Nurmagomedov and his father brought this one element of mixed martial arts to the octagon and has completely dominated with it. I mean, Khabib's only really lost 1 round in his whole UFC career. He's so good at the wrist lock, cage control, and pushing his opponent up to the fence where he inevitably gets the takedown, gets into half guard, and then controls the fight and beats your face in until the round ends or you tap out. Now, as many of you may know, Khabib's father recently passed away from the illness that's going around, and if you know Khabib and his father, they were really close. So many people are questioning if Khabib's gonna have a hard time going into these next 2 fights with the loss of his father. Personally, I think that it's going to motivate him because him and his father set a plan in motion. And you already know that Khabib's going to do everything in his power to accomplish those goals that him and his father originally set out. So this might even make for a scary Khabib Nurmagomedov, which is hard to imagine. So you already know Justin Gaethje has his hands full, and this makes for an even more exciting fight. But rest in peace to Khabib's dad. He was a huge figure in the MMA community and a very sad loss. Everyone's dealing with a lot with this whole illness that's going on, and it's just hard to imagine what 2020 has brought upon us. But at least we get a great fight in Khabib Nurmagomedov and Justin Gaethje. But now that I talked about both of these men a little bit, let's go ahead and match them up, starting with fight experience. So initially you would probably think this would easily go to Khabib Nurmagomedov, but looking at both of these guys' resumes, they actually have a lot of similar opponents, like Michael Johnson, Edson Barboza, and Dustin Poirier. Now, you may argue the fact that Khabib beat Poirier where Justin Gaethje lost to Poirier, but I think that you learn more from a loss than from a win. And adding on top of that, many people forget that Khabib spent a lot of his career hurt and injured and on the sidelines, while Justin Gaethje was in World Series of Fighting for championships. So I'm going to go ahead and call this one a draw. I know I'm taking the easy road out, but if you look at the schedules, I do feel like they have very similar fight experience. So yeah, this one's going to be a draw. But now we move on to the next topic, which is striking, where many people probably think Justin Gaethje has the better striking. Khabib's striking is very tricky just because he has that wrestling element that lowers people's hands trying to stop the takedown, and he's good at winging that overhand right out there and catching people. I mean, he even caught Conor McGregor. So yeah, definitely don't underestimate the simplicity in Khabib's striking. I mean, like Bruce Lee once said, I fear the man that practices 1 punch 1,000 times rather than the man that practices 1,000 punches one time, and this perfectly applies to Khabib in this situation. But on the other hand, you have the vicious striker in Justin Gaethje who'll take your leg home with him if you let him. I mean, it's crazy to me how Justin Gaethje first got into MMA as like a pure wrestler, and he's completely transformed his game into being a vicious pressure striker. At first glance, it may seem like he's just winging stuff out there and being relentless, but Trevor Whitman is a genius, and trust me, there's some style and technique behind what Justin Gaethje's doing. We've seen him evolve from being that pure, relentless striker to now sitting back a little bit and turning that switch on when he needs to, but also sitting back when he needs to and picking his shots. And from that one adjustment alone, Justin Gaethje's game has just evolved tenfold. And like he said on the BYM podcast, there's an aura of death around him, or a zone of death. And when you step into that zone, let's just say you better be ready to go to hell and back, because he's coming with bad intentions.
There's going to be a zone in front of me. It's not very big, and it's going to be a zone of death. And if, I have to represent death every time he enters this zone. And that's what I'm the best at, creating carnage, creating car crashes. So my only goal when I step in there is to create as many car crashes as possible.
So yeah, this one's pretty clear cut in my opinion. The striking goes to Justin Gaethje. I just feel like he has more elements to his striking game, and everything he throws, like I said before, just has bad intentions on it. So Justin Gaethje takes striking. But now let's move on to the ground game, and this one's probably closer than people think. I'm just kidding, it's Khabib. That's like telling you water's wet, fire is hot. Khabib has the better ground game. Alright, jokes aside, now moving on to my pick for this fight. I feel like this fight's closer than people are giving it credit. I know a lot of people are thinking Khabib's just going to go in there and do what he does, dominate the fight. But I feel like Justin Gaethje brings a lot of elements to this fight that Khabib hasn't seen before. I mean, just to get close to Justin Gaethje, Khabib's putting himself in a lot of danger. Like I said, Justin Gaethje throws to put your lights out. Everything he throws has bad intentions behind it. And on top of that, Justin Gaethje has great wrestling that we really haven't got to see much of. Like I said before, he was a D1 wrestler. He's wrestled Jordan Burroughs twice. So yeah, he has legitimate wrestling, so I wonder how that will play a factor in this fight. But for my pick for this fight, I gotta follow the herd and go with Khabib Nurmagomedov, because it's kind of hard to pick against someone who's never been figured out and has never lost before and has only lost one round in their entire career. So I am going with Khabib, but I do feel like Justin Gaethje could definitely upset Khabib. He has so many factors to his game. He's violent, he's vicious, and it's scary for Khabib to close the distance on someone like Justin Gaethje. Like I said, that's putting himself in a lot of danger. So I am so excited for this one, and I can't wait to kick back, crack a beer, and enjoy this fight, because it's going to be madness. But what do you guys think in the comments below? Do you guys see Justin Gaethje upsetting Khabib? Or do you feel like Khabib's just going to do what he's done best and dominate like he's done 28 times before on the ground? I'll be down there in the comments. This one should be fun to have a lot of fight talk about. But that's it for this one, guys. Until next time, peace. Hey guys, it's me again. I know you can't get rid of me, but what I really wanted to say is if you've watched this video all the way up to this point, truly thank you. You know how much watch time and likes help us out in the algorithm and getting our channel out to more people to see. So thank you to everyone who's helping us grow. And me and Brett would just like to say the love definitely doesn't go unnoticed. We appreciate every single one of you. You guys are awesome. So thank you guys.